Hey guys, it's Lem. I want to make quite an honest and personal video today. Lately, I've kind of been missing in action. The big black dog, the dreaded depression has returned. Much as I try not to let it affect my life, everyone who knows me eventually ends up knowing that I have stuff going on upstairs. So what the heck, I thought I'd tell you guys too. Share my experiences. Might also explain why my upload schedule is not exactly regular. So yeah, where did this all begin? I mean, I had a super happy childhood, teenhood, until I got to the age of 15. It was September, I was in high school, and all of a sudden something changed. I just woke up one morning feeling really kind of out of it, really disconnected, detached. You know that feeling where everything's a bit drifty, dreamy, floaty just before you come down with a fever or something? It was exactly like that. I thought I was actually going down with something physical, so I waited for this to go away, and it never did. And I thought, wow, this is kind of strange. I feel like I'm watching my body act independently of my mind. I kind of set myself promises. I said, by my 16th birthday, this will all be gone, I'm sure. Or by my 18th, by my 21st, 25th. No, it doesn't work like that. Nor does wishing on your birthday candles. And it was weird because absolutely nothing had happened to me. Nothing ever has. No trauma, no abuse, no nothing. This time though, there was so much else to think about. There were exams, friendships, the usual teenage hang-ups, applying for university, all these kinds of things, so I kind of put it on the back burner. So then I got to university, adjusting to a whole new way of life without my parents, lots of new responsibilities, and also, as early as Freshers Week, my first love. I had a boyfriend for the whole time that I was at university and beyond, so about 7 years. Quite early on in my studies I realised something was very wrong and that I couldn't hide it from him. We shared everything, including this. I had to tell him something was not right. And he was immensely helpful in supporting me through this time. With his help, I went to see a GP on campus who suggested I try out cognitive behavioural therapy exercises. Unfortunately, these didn't work for me. Sort of, ooh, imagine your way out of your problems and you'll be just fine. Watch my mindfulness video and you'll kind of get the gist. Side note here, I really don't have anything against CBT for other people, but for me personally, I think that my depression is purely chemical, so hormonal, and to do with my internal brain chemistry, my wiring. There's nothing that's happened in my life to make me feel this way. So just putting that out there, try whatever works for you, but this didn't work for me. So I came back to him, said that didn't work, and he gave me my first antidepressants. Now, at the time I was kind of like, wow, medication. Surely that's something that you only use to fix something that's wrong with your body. Once I got over that mental hurdle, I took the tablets and things did work for me. So for a while things were going well. I had good friends at uni, I had good grades, I had a lovely boyfriend, but then, without warning, antidepressant number 1, citalopram, left me in the lurch. It stopped working and I fell. This was the period where I smashed my parents' wedding china and self-harmed to classical music. Antidepressant number 2 came on the scene. This one was a bit better. I felt like it was more of a handrail, just there in case I needed to reach out and grab it. Because with number 1 there had been quite a lot of highs and lows, peaks and troughs. This was more steady, this was more like a friend I could rely on, and I did. On my frequent visits back to my home city, I saw a counsellor who charged me £50 an hour for the privilege of talking about my life, but not providing me any concrete answers and absolutely no solutions. There were more antidepressants. I think I must have changed another couple of times. There were periods where I was determined to be free of the meds, and I stopped taking them with disastrous consequences. Don't do that, especially not suddenly like I did. Don't be stubborn, don't do that. Next came year 3 of university. Now this was always going to be a huge challenge because I did a languages degree. So that meant I had to actually go abroad and live in these countries to use my languages. I studied French and German, so for the German half of the year I had a job lined up in Berlin where I was going to be teaching English to kindergarten-age children. I enjoyed the months of training that we had. I loved Berlin as a city. It was so vibrant, full of creative people. But as early as the first day of the actual job, I knew, oh my gosh, this is not for me. A kid threw a spade in my face and I was left to supervise over 30 two-year-olds. Helping them to the toilet, taking off their shoes, putting them back on and taking them outside and indoors again, and it was just far too much, especially for someone who's quite introverted like me and with no experience of younger siblings or whatever. I was completely out of my depth. I quit. That meant that my year abroad for university was in jeopardy. I panicked. I retreated into bed with a tin of hot dog casserole and a jar of chocolate spread. I thought, you're a failure. You get a month in, you can't even hack it. You absolute failure. You should hate yourself. You should detest yourself. I thought I didn't deserve to live, but at the same time there was part of me that was saying, keep going, power through this somehow, and I sent off a few half-hearted emails all over Germany saying, do you have a job I can start at short notice? And thank God I got an interview for a translation agency in Munich. Soon I was 6 hours train ride away from Berlin, living in Munich. Beautiful city, I absolutely adored it. I fell in love with the atmosphere, the culture, the green spaces. It was my kind of city. The job went well, I made brilliant friends. Everything was absolutely perfect. But then I had to do the second half of the year in Paris. Paris is all very well and good when you're going there as a tourist. However, living there is a whole other kettle of fish and it's just a mission. For me, it turned into a nightmare quite quickly. At first I was moved into a flat with 11 other people, which I knew for the word go was a no-no because they were loud. Coming in all hours from partying, slamming doors, and my room was right next to the front door. I managed to chat to the janitor and said, is there anything else going in this building? And he put me onto a 2-person flat a couple of floors higher, which I shared with a lovely girl. It wasn't made for 2. I had to crawl along my bed to get out of my bedroom. That was how narrow the rooms were. The job was certainly a helpful stepping stone. I was working in an international translation agency for big name brands like Chanel, Dior. I became a client point of contact for various fancy watch brands and things. I was learning a lot, but it was stressful. It was very fast-paced and high pressure, and my working hours were very long because we had to deal with clients from Hong Kong and such forth. We worked from 9 till about 7 quite often. Essentially, there was no time to do anything when you got home from work. Eat, sleep, commute, work, repeat. There was just no time for anything but the metro boulot dodo. And this all started to accumulate. I remember panicking for a whole night when I thought I'd done something wrong at work. I cried for hours and hours to my flatmate who was like, did the world end? It just got worse and worse. It snowballed and it got to the point where every day I would get dressed, get as far as the doors of the office, and then just panic, freak out, and have to go home and write a sick note and say, I'm sorry, I just can't face it today. Which of course made me feel absolutely great about myself. My boyfriend flew over to help me. It didn't work, unfortunately. We just spent most of our days in bed. I was asking him to kill me. He wouldn't. So eventually I spoke to my team leader, explained the situation, and in all fairness, he was massively sympathetic and understanding, and I finished my year abroad a few months early. My year abroad did still count. Everything was fine on that front, but there was a lot of paperwork to sort out. And in terms of French bureaucracy, things can be quite slow moving, so it was quite stressful. I didn't like what I had become. I couldn't really look at myself in the mirror because whenever I did, I saw a failure and a fraud and a coward. When I got back, I finished my course and things slowly returned to normal again. I did my master's in translation and interpreting at the same university. All that time went very well, actually. I was completely antidepressant free. I managed to wean myself off, cutting down from daily pills to every other day pills and then gradually tapering it off. I was very stable for a very long time. I was proud of myself for that. It's funny because whenever I look back on the year abroad now, I only see the happy bits, the edited version. It's like my brain is trying to protect me instinctively from the very, very difficult dark periods. So I went around telling everyone I'd had the most amazing time, and I truly believed that. But if I dig deeper, I do remember, and I think, oh gosh. So that made me sure I was never gonna go abroad again, really. Not to actually work. I spent a year after university applying for jobs. I got one in Debenhams. That's a clothing shop in the UK. So I was alright. I was just bobbing along, and then finally got the call to come over to Frankfurt and interview for a translation post at the National Bank of Germany, and screamed in delight when I got it. Then there was that little alarm bell in the back of my mind saying, are you sure you want to go through with this again? Because you remember last time you lived abroad. What can I say? In August I will have been here 3 years, which completely boggles the mind, to be honest. I didn't get off to a good start. I'll talk about that in another video, I think. All the things which made me hate Frankfurt when I first got here. I had a lot of bad experiences with a lot of terrible people, and also went through the most horrific breakup ever in history. When I came to Frankfurt, I did also try and seek help because I had statutory health insurance anyway. I thought I'm paying for it, might try and use it. I saw my counsellor 3 times, and he ended up by saying, I have no idea what this depersonalization thing is, and I can't help you. Go find someone else. Which is frustrating. It's annoying not to have just bog standard depression that can be dealt with. Annoying to have to bring something new to the table where sometimes they do just throw up their hands and go, I don't know how to solve this. I went back to my doctor in the UK because I had a new complaint about, 6 months ago now. And it wasn't depression anymore, it was anxiety. And I thought, it's like you sort one thing and something else goes haywire, trying to balance all the plates. He said, oh, why don't you try citalopram? And I kind of thought, really? After all this time, everything has gone round in a circle and I'm back where I started, taking my very first antidepressant from all those years ago. Isn't that fab? I will say though that it worked a treat for the anxiety. It was just what I needed. Over the winter I used one of those sad lamps which try and mimic the sunlight. I would sit and stare at that for a couple of hours in the evening, and it did work for a while. It helped me to wake up in the morning when there was no natural light outside. But now, where that leaves me now is it's summer and I've got that summertime sadness. It's the best time of year. I ought to be happy, I'm not happy. It's difficult. I honestly, every time I'm happy, I don't believe that I've ever been depressed. And I think, oh, that was a phase, that was a period of time in my life, and I'll never feel that bad again. And then I do, and it hits me like a ton of bricks, and I think, now I'm never going to be happy again. And for me it's very all or nothing. That's the way my mind works. As for the numbness, the depersonalization, the feeling of being in a film or floating above myself, that never went away. The other day I saw this meme someone posted on Facebook about if you're quite young then and you're mentally ill, there might be a chance that you've actually been mentally ill for longer than you haven't. And I thought, oh my god, that's me now. Over half of my life has been spent in this unreality. I don't want to go back to the meds. Every time it feels like a defeat, and it's totally not. If anyone out there is suffering similar things, I would say, don't believe it. Don't believe this stigma that medication is somehow a sign of weakness or it's an unnatural cure, because If it helps you to stay alive, then by all means do it. Take it. That's what medicine is for. It makes you better. So lately I've found I'm just exhausted. I don't do anything. There's been a lot of public holidays here in Germany, and for most people that's a good thing, but for me it's awful because I just kind of don't get up all day. I binge eat, I possibly play The Sims for far too long. My creative writing that I do every Sunday has been suffering immensely. I really haven't touched it in months. I just don't see the point in anything. And the longer this goes on, the worse it feels, because I feel like I'm getting older and older without achieving anything. Really, all I can do at the moment is survive, and that's just got to be enough. I can't help but miss the person I know I would have become if I wasn't like this. I had a lot of potential back in high school, or so I thought, you know? And then I got hit by this thing, and I feel like my memory has certainly suffered. My intelligence, definitely. My ability to learn new things and retain facts has suffered greatly. I struggle to express myself verbally. My creativity's been killed off, as I've said. I just feel like a kind of second-rate version of the person I was supposed to become. I want to realise my potential, but I don't feel like I ever will, because I'm restricted by this illness, this kind of cloud. I worry that I come across as weird now. I worry that people get offended by things that I say or do because I'm feeling low. Like, sometimes I can't make the requisite effort just to talk and to get the conversation flowing. I must come across so badly, but at the moment I can't help it. It's really frustrating to know that when I feel low, it's never going to be the last time, unless I end up dying from it. It's always going to be coming back. It's always going to be my constant companion, just lurking out of sight until I stop and take a break, and then it catches me up. Always kind of tapping on my shoulder, my unwelcome guest. Above all, depression is very boring. It's tiresome to have to go through the whole rigmarole all the time. And it's a monumental effort sometimes just to act normal when nobody has the foggiest what you're going through. I find the self-loathing so difficult to deal with. I mean, right now I have this voice telling me that I ought not to have been born because I just bring everyone who knows me so much pain and so much discomfort. And I just let everybody down all the time. I let myself down most of all. I'm not pretty, and I'm not clever, and I'm not anything that I ought to be, having lived for so long on this planet. I haven't done anything to earn my right to be here, which it sounds messed up, but I take comfort sometimes on low ebbs like now in the fact that if it ever becomes too much, I can end things myself. But really, strictly speaking, no, I certainly can't, because I would never ever do that to my parents, who are my rock. Let's be real, I don't have the balls to do that. I never would. I couldn't ever. Much as I might want to. I'm not in any danger. It's not the same melodramatic teenage years depression. It's not writing suicide notes. It's not that kind of thing anymore. It's just this heavy, constant weight. It's this weariness of everything. It's this lack of interest in everything, and it's exhausting all of your options by doing all the stuff you know you should enjoy and you do normally enjoy. But it's not bringing you any joy. It's keeping going, it's doing the grown-up thing. It's also dressing a bit more darkly than I normally would, because if you're going to be sad, might as well make it an aesthetic, I guess. I am tired at the thought of having to live a normal human lifespan. I am embarrassed at the face I'm presenting to the world right now. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm scared of my future. I'm very, very sad. But I'm going to keep going. I have to keep going. It's gonna improve. It always does. I'm beating myself up about things in my past. I'm saying I should have been a better person so that I would still be in a relationship, even though that's really nothing to do with why the relationship ended. Torturing myself with all of these things and these what ifs. Asking myself why I make my life difficult for myself. Why don't I just go home? But I never was one to take the easy route. So I don't think that will change. It's such a waste of life and I really do hate it. But I have to believe that it's not going to be forever, because it never is forever. Nothing is. And I've got to hang in there and just try and not hate myself for the person that I've become, because considering all that's happened, I've achieved a fair bit, and it's not perfect, and it's not as much as it would have been, but it's still enough, and I don't deserve to die. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I want to say. I'm sorry it's not the happiest of topics, but if it provides anyone with just a shred of comfort knowing that they're not alone in feeling this way and they can empathise, then brilliant, you know? Go get help for yourselves. There is help out there, definitely. And it may come in different forms. It could be talking to people, it could be helplines, it could be meds. Don't judge them, don't knock them till you've tried them. But whatever you do, don't just suffer in silence like I've been trying to do for a few months. I will catch you next time.